A historic landmark church in the Swedish Arctic has arrived at its new home after being moved in its entirety. Deutsche Welle correspondent Arthur Sullivan joins us now live from Berlin. Arthur, we love this story. Why was an entire church moved?
Yeah, it's a lot of trouble to go to, isn't it? So it's the obvious question. I mean, this has taken, I think, 8 or 9 years to plan. It's cost 45 million euros. I'm not quite sure what that is in Australian dollars, but it has involved the entire moving of this church 5 kilometres across town at a very, very slow pace on these wheels. So why would you do it? Well, the short version is that it's to make space for the expansion of what is already Europe's largest underground mine. So for well over a century, this Swedish city of Kiruna, which is way up in the country's northern Arctic region, it's been associated with mining and specifically iron ore. But now it's not just the church that's been moved, it's the entire city centre, because as this mine expands for various reasons, the ground around the town is getting weaker and it's leading to a risk of buildings such as this iconic 113-year-old church collapsing. Now, the good news is that this church, which weighs around 672 tonnes at recent measurements, has been successfully completed. It has arrived intact at its new home after what was a very, very slow journey, measured at around half a kilometre per hour. The event was live streamed and it was attended by the King of Sweden. So it really was quite a big deal, this, but there are very good reasons why it had to happen.
I love the time-lapse stuff. It looks so great, the house or the church moving along the road. I mean, this mine, then, must be pretty important for Sweden and Europe, I guess.
Well, that's the longer version here, because it's really not just a quirky story about a church been moved. This is not just any old mine, and it's no longer just a mine that has to do with iron ore either. So 2 years ago, the state-owned company which runs this mine, they're called LKAB, they made a big announcement that they had found significant deposits of rare earths in the ground there and that they hope to extract them. Now, some of your viewers will obviously know what rare earths are, but for those who don't, they're these chemical elements which are needed for practically every element of modern technological high-tech manufacturing. But very few countries actually produce them. Now, despite their name, they are abundant in the ground around the world, including across Australia. But what's not abundant are mines where they're actually produced. So extracting, processing, refining rare earths, it's really, really expensive. And China's basically the only country that does it on scale, and China has done this for years. Now, the increasing importance of rare earths for these modern technology applications, including for defence, means they're now of really huge strategic importance. And China this year restricted the export of some of them because of the trade war with the US and Trump's tariffs, and it really highlighted how important it is for places like Europe and elsewhere around the world to establish their own supply and reduce this dependence on China.
Yeah, I mean, how is that going to go? Are they going to be able to do it?
Well, that's really the big question. That comes down to more than moving a church and expanding this mine. So, and that's where the importance of Kiruna does come in, because it is going to take a lot, many more years for LKAB to establish if they can actually get the rare earths out of the ground in Kiruna. First of all, are there truly enough there? Because sometimes there's just simply not enough as a percentage in the ore. Can it process them? Can it refine them? Does it make sense economically to do so? Now, this expansion, which involved the moving of the church and which will, as I said, involve other buildings being moved over the next few years, it's all part of that process. And this company in Sweden are making major efforts to do so. And these efforts come at a time when there's probably more political will in Europe than there has been before to support these kind of efforts as more than an economic concern, as a strategic concern. Now, in short, I would say Kiruna represents Europe's best current prospect of a mine capable of producing rare earths at scale in the decades ahead. And given that constantly changing geopolitical dynamic between China, the US, the EU and other parts of the world, it does seem to be becoming a more urgent challenge. So that's the story of how moving a little church in a town in northern Sweden is tied to a much bigger geopolitical issue.
We love it. It's not really a little church, though, was it? Arthur, thanks very much for that. Arthur Sullivan, Deutsche Welle correspondent. Sunscreen company Ultraviolet has withdrawn